Emma was having the worst night of her life, crying in a gas station at midnight when she dialed what she thought was her best friend's number. The man she thought would propose to her that night had just ended their 3-year relationship in a crowded restaurant. She needed to talk to someone, anyone, but the voice that answered was not her friend. It was a stranger, a security guard standing just a few feet away, and that one wrong number she dialed was about to change everything. Emma Richardson had imagined this night 1,000 times. The soft lighting of Marcello's, the city's most exclusive Italian restaurant. The way David would reach across the table, his hand trembling slightly as he pulled out a small velvet box. She had even practiced her surprised face in the mirror, though they both knew she had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. But reality, as it often does, had other plans. She sat across from David now, her champagne untouched, watching his mouth move but barely hearing the words. He was breaking up with her. Here, tonight, in the restaurant where she thought he would propose. "There is someone else," he said. "Someone from the office. It had been going on for 6 months. He was sorry. He never meant for it to happen." All the usual lines that cheaters tell themselves to sleep better at night. Emma felt her chest tighten, her vision blurring. She would not cry here, not in front of all these people. Not in front of him. She grabbed her purse, stood up so quickly her chair scraped loudly against the floor, and walked out. She heard David call her name once, but he did not follow. Of course he did not follow. The valet brought her red sports car around, a gift from her father when she made junior partner at the marketing firm. She had been so proud of it then. Now it just felt like another reminder of everything she thought she had, everything she thought she was building with David. She drove without direction, tears streaming down her face, mascara burning her eyes. The city lights blurred into streaks of color. She did not know where she was going. She just needed to move, to put distance between herself and that restaurant, that moment, that humiliation. 20 minutes later, she found herself pulling into a gas station, the Chevron on 5th Street. It was nearly 11 at night, and the place was almost empty. Just the fluorescent lights humming above the pumps and the glow from the convenience store windows. She parked away from the pumps, turned off the engine, and let herself break down completely. How had she not seen it? 6 months, half a year of lies and late nights at the office that she had believed without question. She felt like a fool. Worse, she felt disposable, like 3 years of her life meant nothing, like she meant nothing. She needed to talk to someone. Sarah, her best friend, would know what to say. Sarah always knew what to say. Emma pulled out her phone, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and scrolled to Sarah's number. Her vision was still blurry from crying. She tapped what she thought was the call button. The phone rang once, twice. A man's voice answered, professional and warm. "Hello?" Emma blinked. That was not Sarah. "Sarah?" she said, confused. "I think you have the wrong number, ma'am." The kindness in his voice broke something in her. The last thread of composure she had been holding on to snapped. She started sobbing, really sobbing, the kind of crying that makes your whole body shake. She could not stop. She could not breathe. 3 years, she managed to say between sobs. 3 years, and he just... She could not finish the sentence. On the other end of the line, there was silence. But he did not hang up. "Ma'am, are you okay? Are you safe?" Emma tried to answer, but could only cry harder. She was sitting on the hood of her car now, phone pressed to her ear, completely falling apart in a gas station parking lot. "Ma'am," the voice said again, gentle but concerned. "Where are you right now?" Through her tears, Emma managed to say, "A gas station, 5th Street." There was a pause. Then the voice said something that made her look up. "Are you at the Chevron station on 5th Street?" Emma froze. How did you know that?" "Look toward the store." Slowly, Emma turned her head toward the convenience store. Standing in the doorway, phone to his ear, was a man in a security guard uniform. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and kind eyes that were looking directly at her with genuine concern. Her breath caught. The stranger on the phone was right there. Emma's first instinct was to run, to get in her car and drive away before this humiliation could get any worse. A wrong number, of course, just one more thing to go wrong tonight. She slid off the hood of her car, fumbling for her keys. But then the man started walking toward her, slowly, hands visible and non-threatening. He was still holding his phone, and she could hear his voice both through the speaker and across the parking lot. "Hey, hey," he said softly. "You do not have to go, but you should not drive like this either. I was just getting coffee. Can I at least get you some water?" Emma stood there, keys in hand, tears still streaming down her face. Every instinct told her to leave. She did not know this man. This was crazy. But something in his voice, the same gentle tone that had kept him on the line when anyone else would have hung up, made her stop. She looked at him properly now. He was probably in his early 30s, with a neatly trimmed beard and the kind of face that felt trustworthy. His security uniform was crisp and clean. He held a coffee cup in one hand and his phone in the other, and he looked at her not with pity, but with understanding. Emma heard herself say, "Okay." The man nodded, gave her a small, reassuring smile, and walked back into the store. Emma stood there, feeling ridiculous and vulnerable, and strangely, inexplicably, a little bit less alone.
Jonathan returned with 2 bottles of water and a small package of tissues. He walked slowly, carefully, like someone approaching a wounded animal. Emma was still standing by her car, arms wrapped around herself despite the warm night. He held out the water and tissues without saying anything at first. Emma took them, mumbling a thank you that barely made it past her lips. "I am Jonathan, by the way," he said. "I work security at the office building around the corner. Night shift." Emma wiped her face with one of the tissues. The mascara came off in black streaks. "Emma, and I am so embarrassed right now." Jonathan shook his head. "Do not be. I once pocket-dialed my supervisor while I was singing in the shower, had to explain why he got 3 minutes of me doing a terrible Marvin Gaye impression. This is nothing." Despite everything, Emma let out a small laugh. It surprised her. She had not thought she would laugh again tonight. Jonathan gestured to the curb near the air pump. "You want to sit? Standing gets tiring after a while. Trust me, I stand for 8 hours straight most nights." They walked over and sat down on the concrete curb. It was not comfortable, but somehow it felt right, like they were just 2 people taking a break from the world. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Emma opened her water bottle and took a long drink. Jonathan did the same. The silence was not awkward. It was almost peaceful. Finally, Emma spoke. "He was supposed to propose tonight. At least, I thought he was. We had been together for 3 years. Everyone knew. My friends kept asking when it would happen. My mother had already started looking at venues." Jonathan listened, his expression neutral but attentive. "Instead, he broke up with me," Emma continued. "Said there was someone else, someone from his office. It had been going on for 6 months. She laughed bitterly. 6 months. I had no idea. I feel like such an idiot." "You are not an idiot," Jonathan said quietly. "You trusted someone you loved. That is not stupid. That is just what people do when they care about someone." Emma looked at him. He was staring out at the empty parking lot, his hands clasped loosely between his knees. "Has anyone ever done that to you?" she asked. Jonathan nodded slowly. 2 years ago. Her name was Michelle. We were engaged, had the date set, the venue booked, everything. Then one day she sat me down and told me she could not do it, said I was not ambitious enough, that I was just a security guard with no real future. Emma winced. "That's awful." Jonathan shrugged. "It hurt, for a long time. But looking back, I think she did me a favor. She wanted someone who looked successful on paper. I wanted someone who saw me for who I actually am. Those are 2 different things." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing his words. "What do you mean, just a security guard? You say it like it is something to be ashamed of." Jonathan smiled slightly. "People make assumptions. They see the uniform and think that's all there is. But I'm finishing my business degree online, taking classes whenever I can. I take care of my mom, too. She has arthritis, needs help with things around the house. My dad passed 3 years ago, so it's just me now." Emma felt something shift in her chest. Here was this man, working nights, going to school, caring for his mother, and his ex-fiancée had called him unambitious. "That's not lack of ambition," Emma said. "That's responsibility. That's caring about people." Jonathan looked at her then, really looked at her, and smiled. "Thank you. Most people do not see it that way." They talked for another hour. Emma told him about her job at the marketing firm, how she had worked so hard to make junior partner, how she thought David had been proud of her. Now she wondered if he had felt threatened instead, if her success had pushed him towards someone else. Jonathan told her about his business classes, how he wanted to start his own security consulting firm one day. He talked about his mother, how she would make him breakfast before his shift even though he told her not to stay up, how she still treated him like he was 10 years old sometimes. Emma found herself relaxing. The tightness in her chest was easing. She was not thinking about David or the restaurant or the humiliation. She was just talking to someone who actually listened, who asked real questions and seemed genuinely interested in the answers. "You know what's weird?" Emma said. "I've known David for 3 years, but I feel like I've told you more in the last hour than I ever told him." Jonathan nodded. "Sometimes it's easier to be honest with a stranger. No history, no expectations, just two people talking." "Is that what we are? Strangers?" Jonathan checked his phone. His eyebrows rose slightly. "I should probably get back. My break ended 30 minutes ago." He stood up, brushed off his uniform pants. Emma felt a sudden panic. She did not want him to leave. She did not want to be alone again. Jonathan must have seen it on her face because he paused. "There's a diner 2 blocks from here, open 24 hours, best pancakes in the city, and I'm not just saying that. I get off at 6 in the morning. If you're still awake, if you don't want to go home yet, maybe we could get breakfast." Emma looked up at him. This was crazy. She had just been dumped. She accidentally called this man while crying, and now she was considering having breakfast with him at 6 in the morning. But she heard herself say, "I would like that." Jonathan smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Okay, I'll text you when I'm done with my shift. You have my number now, the right one this time." He started walking back toward the street, then turned around. "Emma, drive safe if you leave, and if you need to talk before 6, just call. On purpose this time." Emma watched him walk away, his figure disappearing into the darkness beyond the gas station lights. She sat there for another 10 minutes, just thinking. Then she got in her car and drove to the diner. She ordered coffee and sat in a booth by the window. She had 4.5 hours to wait. For some reason, that didn't bother her at all.
Emma sat in the corner booth of the diner, nursing her 3rd cup of coffee. The waitress, an older woman named Diane, had stopped asking if she wanted anything else and just kept the coffee coming. Emma watched the sky slowly change from black to deep blue to soft pink. She had not slept, but she did not feel tired. She felt strangely alert, like she was waiting for something important. At 6:15 in the morning, the diner door opened. Jonathan walked in, still in his uniform, looking a bit tired but smiling when he saw her. He slid into the booth across from her. "You waited," he said. "I did," Emma replied. "I ordered coffee, but I waited for you to order food. You said something about pancakes?" Jonathan flagged down Diane and ordered for both of them. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, the works. When Diane walked away, he leaned back in the booth and let out a long breath. "Long night?" Emma asked. "Nothing unusual. Checked some doors, walked some halls, made sure nobody was stealing computers. The usual excitement," he grinned. "Though I will admit my mind was not completely on the job. I kept thinking about whether you would actually be here." "I almost left twice," Emma admitted. "I kept thinking this was insane. Having breakfast with someone I just met at a gas station because I called the wrong number. But then I thought about going back to my apartment, alone, and I just could not do it. I'm glad you stayed." They ate slowly, talking between bites. Jonathan told her about a book he was reading for one of his classes, something about leadership and emotional intelligence. Emma told him about a campaign she was working on, how she had been pouring herself into it to avoid thinking about wedding plans that were never going to happen. The more they talked, the more Emma realized how different Jonathan was from David. David had always dominated conversations, always steered things back to himself. Jonathan asked questions and actually cared about the answers. He remembered details from things she had said hours ago. He made her feel heard in a way she had not felt in years. When they finished eating, Jonathan walked her out to her car. The sun was fully up now, and the city was starting to wake up. People were heading to work, starting their normal days, while Emma felt like she had just lived through something completely outside of normal. They stood by her car, neither of them quite ready to say goodbye. "Can I see you again?" Jonathan asked. "I mean, properly, not at a gas station or a diner at dawn. Maybe dinner or coffee? Whatever you're comfortable with." Emma smiled. "I would like that. But Jonathan, I need to be honest. I just got out of a 3-year relationship, like hours ago. I'm a mess. I do not know what I want right now." "I know," Jonathan said, "and I'm not asking you to know. I'm just asking if I can see you again. No pressure, no expectations, just two people getting to know each other." Emma felt tears starting again, but these were different from the ones she had cried last night. "Okay, yes, I would really like that." They exchanged numbers properly this time, double-checking to make sure they were correct. Jonathan waited until Emma got in her car and started the engine before he walked to his own car parked down the street. Over the next 2 weeks, they texted constantly. Good morning messages, random thoughts throughout the day, funny things they noticed. They met for coffee 3 times. They went for a walk in the park. Jonathan took Emma to a bookstore he loved, and she bought him a book she thought he would enjoy. He read it in 2 days and texted her his thoughts on every chapter. Emma's friends were skeptical when she told them about Jonathan, not because of who he was, but because of how fast it was happening. "You just broke up with David," her friend Sarah said. "Are you sure you're not just rebounding?" But Emma didn't think it was a rebound. It felt different. It felt real in a way that her relationship with David had stopped feeling a long time ago, if it ever felt that way at all. 3 weeks after that night at the gas station, Jonathan invited Emma to meet his mother. They had dinner at her house, and Emma helped wash dishes while Jonathan's mother told embarrassing stories about him as a child. His mother hugged Emma when she left and whispered, "He hasn't smiled like this in years. Thank you." A week after that, Emma introduced Jonathan to Sarah. She had been nervous about it, but Jonathan won Sarah over immediately with his easy humor and genuine interest in Emma's life. When Jonathan excused himself to take a phone call, Sarah leaned across the table. "Okay," she said, "I was wrong. This man is nothing like David. Hold on to him." 1 month and 3 days after that night at the gas station, Jonathan picked her up and told her he had a surprise. He drove them back to the Chevron on 5th Street. Emma laughed when she realized where they were going. "Are you serious?" she asked. "Completely serious," Jonathan said. He had packed a picnic basket. They sat on the same curb where they had talked that first night, eating sandwiches and watching the occasional car pull in for gas. "You know what's funny?" Jonathan said. "If you had dialed the right number that night, we never would have met. You would have talked to Sarah, gone home, probably gotten back together with David eventually." Emma shook her head. "I don't think so. I think I would have ended up right here eventually, one way or another. Maybe not this exact spot, but this exact place in my life, realizing I deserved better, realizing I had been settling." Jonathan took her hand. "I'm really glad your hands were shaking that night. Really glad you hit the wrong number." "Best wrong number I ever dialed," Emma said. Jonathan turned to face her fully. "You know what that night taught me? That the right things happen when you're ready for them. I was ready to help someone. You were ready to accept help. And somehow that turned into this, into us." Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. "Us. I like the sound of that." They sat there as the sun set, watching the gas station lights flicker on one by one. A woman pulled up to the pumps, looking stressed and tired. Emma saw herself in that woman, the person she had been just a month ago, lost and hurt and convinced that everything was falling apart. But she was not that person anymore. She was someone who had learned that sometimes the wrong turn leads you exactly where you need to be. that sometimes a stranger's kindness matters more than years of familiar comfort, that love is not about grand gestures or perfect timing. It's about showing up and paying attention and caring about someone else's story as much as your own. Jonathan drove her home that night. He walked her to her door and kissed her softly before leaving. Emma went inside, made herself tea, and sat by the window. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jonathan. "Thank you for tonight. Thank you for giving a wrong number a chance." Emma smiled and typed back, "Thank you for answering." She looked out at the city lights, thinking about fate and chance and all the small moments that add up to change a life. Somewhere out there, David was probably with his new girlfriend, never knowing what he had lost. And Emma realized she didn't care anymore. She had found something real, something that started with tears at a gas station and turned into something beautiful.